Welcome back to my official podcast. This is Gaurav Ayaan, and we have got obviously everybody has heard this news that the fifth test match between India and England has been cancelled. So we thought we will take sometimes we haven't rushed for the show because obviously people were thinking because people were thinking that we will take some times, we will get all the information which we want to and gather some of the information, then we will take the forward of our show. We will definitely do a show. So we have almost gathered all the information, and now we are back in our show. So Lucas has joined me all the way from Australia. As everybody knows that he's in my team and he's my mate. And obviously we will have this discussion today, and we will try to be as neutral as possible, like every time. And we will try to be what do you call it? Correct, Lucas? We will try to be
Try,
as correct as possible. So Lucas,
as
uh,
neutral, um,
yes,
uh, as possible. So we're both parties are
yes.
not biased. So yeah.
Yes, we are first a cricket fan, then the rest of the things comes after that. So first of all, Lucas, welcome back to my show officially. First of all, welcome back to my show, and we thought that we will do this toss show today, and after that, the end of the day's plan and everything got just we didn't hoping for this day because it was a brilliant series and we are hoping a proper finish, but seems like it wasn't on.
Such a shame because
Yes,
we spoke this well, first of all we speak with our hearts and our heads.
yes.
So we spoke with James about this cricket badger, and we said to him it'd be a shame if the series would end like this. And unfortunately, the series has ended like this, and it really didn't deserve to be. This was a very good series. This was a very close, entertaining series, and it's such a shame that it has ended like this.
Lucas, tell me one thing. We'll have this discussion as I told everybody, every viewers about this, that we will try to be as neutral as possible. What would you have done on this situation? What you would have been doing if you are in the England camp, if you are in Indian camp? What would you have done? Tell me. If there is a bio bubble breach, obviously, first of all, you everybody should know this. There was once the fourth test match was about to start, Ravi Shastri and all the other sport member got affected, and they were isolated for the 14 days. Okay,
Yeah,
thankfully nothing happened after after in the fourth test match, but problem starts when the fifth test match was about to start, and we got this news yesterday that one of the member physio member, just imagine physio, the second physio who was looking after the Rohit Sharma and Cheteshwar Pujara's problem, that they were facing some of the injuries. And obviously you know this role of a physio, they are very close to the players, they treat they are very close to the players, and that physio affected, and you know the what happened after that. So what that's my question is to you: what would you have done if you are in an Indian camp or even in England camp? Go ahead, Lucas, take your time.
uh, a couple of I've would have done one or two things. Before I get onto that, let's be clear: the ECB jumped the gun. They produced something that wasn't true when they posted that India forfeited. I think that was a little bit disrespectful um,
Yes.
from the ECB, considering that they didn't have all the facts. They just presumed Virat Kohli uh, said, "No, that's it. You win the Test match, you forfeit it," without going towards third parties like the ICC or even checking with the BCCI themselves. They just assumed. So that's a little bit disappointing on their end. They have since apologised, I suppose. So they got
Yes,
that out of the
yes, they
way.
have applied. They could have been a
Um,
little professional. They could have taken
yeah.
their time. They could have gathered all this information,
Mm.
and they have taken their time, and they could have given all this information after that.
So, so the one of two things. Number one,
First of all, Amit, you have asked about Lucas about their channel. Lucas is in my team. Lucas doesn't have this YouTube channel and all this. Lucas and me are the very good mates, and we have this show, and we Lucas will be always be available here. You will not
Yeah.
be. He will not be going anywhere else. Lucas, go ahead.
I have my own channel, but it's nothing to do with cricket. Sorry. So one of two
Yes.
things. Um, Number one, I would have waited 24 to 48 hours to see
Yes.
if any players came back negative or positive, because
Yes.
players are still get tested. Uh, and if no one was negative, I probably would have played the game on a Sunday. Uh, playing the game on a Sunday and Monday would have been beneficial because there was rain forecast for every day, and this could have
Yes.
been ended in a draw. So postponing it a couple of days could have been beneficial.
Lucas, tell me one thing. You have told me that, first of all, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You told me that you could have done this. You have taken the 2 days break, obviously, and you could have
Mm-hmm.
started this test match on a Sunday. Okay. Tell me
Yes.
one thing, Lucas. You know this about the symptoms of corona and all this. Once the people are affected, sometimes the virus tends to take the
Yeah.
time. And just imagine, obviously the players got tested negative, but sometimes virus takes time, and
Yeah.
sometimes the symptom comes late. So just imagine the test. Once again, there will be a lot of tests. Obviously, you know this, and then that comes positive. So there was a big issue also. That, go ahead, Lucas.
Yeah. So obviously the players got tested yesterday. That those yesterday's results got published today, and they were all negative. So they would have had a COVID test today. Tomorrow they would have decided if they were negative or positive. Saturday they would have had Sunday, where I suggest the COVID. Suggest the test match takes place. They would have been tested again. So they probably would have been tested 4 times in a row, 4 days in a row. The
Yes.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if the Sunday didn't come back,
If I'm
if it
not
was
wrong,
all
they could have been
yeah,
tested once again if they were leaving this test match, or even
yes,
they could have
yeah,
been tested regularly, because
yeah,
the second physio were very close with the Indian players, so they could have been
yeah,
tested regularly.
yeah. So they probably would have been, as you just said, tested the day after the match finished, and
Yes.
even after when the match finished. So they would have been tested regularly. When you have
Yes.
long tours like this with COVID, you just don't get tested one time for the series, and that's it. You get tested
And especially,
regularly.
especially when there is a second time the physio got
Mm,
positive, and they were very close to the
yeah,
physio is very close to the players. Obviously, you know that, and we can understand that Ravi Shastri and all the members were not very close to the players, and that they were isolated on the other room, and the fourth test match went ahead. But the problem with the
so
fifth test match, you obviously you know
yeah,
that the physio got was positive, and he was treating other players like Rohit Sharma and Pujara. So they were obviously, there was a lot of things which needs to find out that what would going to be happening in the future. Go ahead, Lucas.
yep. Hello,
Anand, yeah.
Nand.
Hello, Anand.
Hello.
Welcome.
Yeah. So I would have moved the test match to a Sunday, and just hope that there wasn't any COVID. Um,
Yes.
and obviously, if you would have waited till Sunday, the players that have been the coaching staff and the PA guys directed to Rohit Sharma would have been quarantined already and isolated, so you wouldn't have got an exposure from there, unless prior before that test would have been negative, of course. The second option is, now I understand that IPL is around the corner, so it's very hard to say let's wait a couple of weeks. But this is probably more logical for me, um, than compared to the other silly ideas I've seen around. Um, I said mentioned yesterday with Cricket Badger with James that
You're not audible, Lucas.
hear me now.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I mentioned this with James Butler yesterday. That
Yes.
mentioning A teams where if England did not come because of COVID rules, they'd send their B team, possibly send their B team. India could have done the same
Yes.
thing. While the A team are playing IPL, like the Virat Kohlis, the Rohit Sharmas, the Jadejas, they could have been playing IPL while a B team, an Indian B team, could have came to England, quarantined for 12 days. Same with England, because England
That
also
would
have.
have been, that wouldn't have been fair, Lucas. If you're talking about this, India could have been sending the A team. Just imagine, England would have been of England team wouldn't have been chased, and Indians A team would have been here, and all the main players are not Indian main players would have been, and obviously you get the series is on the line. You obviously you know that the England are the one who will be very desperate to win that test match, obviously, and India would be also that they are very keen to win a series in England for a very long time. So it wouldn't have been fair to just for the final test you call a team, obviously Indian A team. So that if you really want to be a fair, then you should have been calling this England for the England also, that England should also be sending their A teams. Then I'm talking about the competition would have been what do you call it exact and to be fair, that's what I want to see. Because just imagine, no matter how good Indian players would have been in India and they are touring, they have been touring for India for the very long period of time. You need a proper exposure once you are playing test matches. Lucas, go ahead.
Well, like I said, I was going to say to you also that England players also play IPL. So if they
Yes.
don't leave, if they don't leave, if they don't leave England at the right time as India, they don't play IPL. They miss out on their money.
So
So
Joe Root doesn't play IPL.
yeah,
So tell me.
yeah. But James Butler, Johnny Bairstow all do play IPL.
Josh
Um,
Butler. Josh
yeah,
Butler, Johnny
Josh
Bairstow,
Butler.
all
Yeah,
the players.
yeah.
Yeah, IPL, but Joe Root doesn't play.
David Milan also plays IPL.
Yes.
Craig
Rory Burns
Overton.
doesn't play
Yeah,
IPL. Rory Burns
yeah.
doesn't play IPL,
No,
and I think Hamid doesn't play IPL, and Oli Pop doesn't play IPL. So still, England would have been a very solid side.
I th- their bowlers will also play IPL. Craig Overton also plays IPL, I think.
No, no, not at all.
Sam,
Not at all.
Sam, I think he plays the Rajasthan Royals.
No, Craig Overton doesn't play. Jofra Archer is a part of this IPL
Yeah,
Rajasthan team, but Craig Overton hasn't been part of any IPL team.
okay. And I think Sam Curran also plays IPL.
Yes, yes, you're right.
Yes. So obviously James Anderson has never played IPL apart from the first couple of
No,
years.
no,
Um,
no, no. He hasn't been part of any
so
IPL team
yeah,
forever.
and maybe I think Chris Wokes plays IPL. I think. Um,
Yes, he's part of the Delhi Capitals
so
team.
so so they
Forget about this. So you need, you are saying that England A players and Indian A players. You have been creating that kind of a scenario
I,
for the fifth test match,
I,
right?
yeah, I think sending, so if Joe Root, yeah, England probably a little bit stronger, but they'll still be
Yes.
decimated with IPL commitments. So I think, in India, Pujara does not play IPL. Um,
No. No, no, but
and I
he's
don't
been
think
part of this CSK team. He has been part of this CSK team. Ajinkya Rahane has been
yeah,
the part of the Delhi Capitals team.
yeah, but they have not played, so I presume that they would not get as much pay as a
Yeah.
Jadeja
No,
or a
it's not
Virat
about the pay.
Kohli.
They
Yeah,
will, they will not be in the playing 11. About they don't make to their playing 11 in their IPL teams.
they don't make okay. So they would have had permission just to play their test matches. So you still would have had Pujara, you still would have had Rahane. Rahane captain the in the Australian tour, so you would have had him as the captaincy. Remember, this is one test. This isn't a whole series. This is just one test. I'm sure Rahane would have done fine in that department. And you had the same situation in Sri Lanka where who was the captain of the Indian team there? Shikadaran.
Shikhar Dhawan.
Shikadaran went to Sri Lanka while the test team was playing
But
in
Lucas,
England.
the problem did happen in Sri Lanka. I
Yeah,
understand, but there was not a second time that any of the member got positive. That's the main thing
yeah,
that happened in Sri Lanka. If the second time would have been happened like it happened
yeah,
here, then that tour would also been called off.
yeah. So it would have been. I think I've seen ideas out there that the fifth test match should be played next year in an
Yes,
ODI
and
series.
tell me one
That
thing, Lucas. Tell me one thing. I'm just getting this news everywhere. I'm just reading that news that fifth Test match won't be counted in this series. So I'm just assuming that if that Test match won't be counted in this series, then why you are playing with just one of the Test matches?
yeah, well, like I said, the ECB wanted the fifth test to be next year. That's unacceptable. That's just ridiculous. Cannot have a
Yes,
once-off test match. You cannot have a once-off test match between England and India. Two big
yes.
nations.
And
Play
after
a
and after
once-off.
1 year,
Yeah,
and after
play
1 year,
once.
just imagine.
Yeah, so it would be the longest test series known to man because you're stopping this test series and then you're playing a random. It would not even. It wouldn't feel like the build up wouldn't feel like part of the series. It would
Yes,
feel very tamed. It would feel like
yes,
one test a once off test match, like a Bangladesh would play in Ireland or an Ireland would play in Afghanistan. It'd be very
yes,
tamed.
yes.
So that's why I would suggest the two of two things is that India send a B team here, and England still would still have a relatively strong team, but most of their half their players are gone with IPL, so they would have to
Yeah.
bring players from the domestic county, just like India would, minus Rahane and Pujara, minus Joe Root and Jimmy Anderson and Ollie Robinson. So it would be pretty even actually, pretty even with the
So
experience and
I think that wouldn't have been happening if you obviously talking about against what you would have been doing in that kind of a scenario, which is totally fine. But this kind of things is not would have been possible in this scenario. Tell me one thing about Lucas. Everybody is obviously this. You are very active on the social media. I am very active on the social media. People have been blaming everywhere that the IPL is the reason of this called of the series. Tell me one thing, Lucas. Just I'm talking, and I'm being very fair, and I have been also very big supporter of the international cricket, and I have been also been very honest that any league would not be interrupting this international cricket. I am up with that. Okay, but tell me one thing, Lucas. You know this about this England team. They did the same thing against with the South Africa. They were not been very supportive towards the South Africa. We still played the test match here once our coaching staff got positive, but they did the same thing and they just left that tour South Africa without anything and from getting information. And South African cricket were very hurt with their decision. Obviously, you know this.
well, incidentally, it was the same tournament, it's the IPL that the English players did not want to play in. The
No,
English players
I
did.
don't think about this. Just because the reason of the IPL that they left that South Africa tour. That wasn't the reason. Because
Well, they put.
after the South Africa, they went on to tour. If I'm not wrong, they toured Sri Lanka to play the test matches.
No, I'm not following that one. Sorry, I haven't been paying attention to that.
Yes.
So now we have to move on to the next question. I've lost you there. Sorry.
Yes, forget about that. We will definitely have this. We will get this more clarity on that. But and tell me one thing. I have one more point to make. If it is all about IPL, just tell me one thing. England did also the same thing. They once you remember this, there was a lot of time between second and third test match. There was a 9 day gap between second and third test match. Just imagine. And you know the reason why they have taken 9 days gap between the second and third test match? Because their England players could be available for the 100 for the playoffs and all this. So if they're England, or especially about I'm talking about this England media, England guy, they are blaming the IPL. Why they didn't blame the 100? Because there is a 9 day gap between second and the third test match just because to conduct the 100 IPLs play 100 playoffs. So if this is wrong, I think that was wrong also.
But I I don't think Joe Root, Rory Burns played in the 100. I think I
It
I
doesn't.
don't think
I know. Joe Root hasn't been
yeah
playing this 100. Obviously, he's been not been that kind of a player who can smack this right from the first ball. So other players were available to play this 100. So that why the window was created just for the 100. Just this is what I am telling you. And I got this information because
yeah
there was a 9 day gap, and I was really shocked because obviously we were also discussing why there is so much gap between second test and third test match. And I got this news today just because the 100 were going on, and the Josh Butler and other players were involved in this 100. So that's the reason they got the 9 day break between second and third test match. So their players could be available for the 100.
yeah. Just incidentally, the Sri Lankan tour that England did face um, has came to me because Joe Root was once again fantastic in that series. So made a couple of hundreds, and I think the reason that South Africa got cancelled, I think they cancelled ODI series. The ODI series got cancelled. Um, I think so.
Doesn't matter. And ODI series also is an international part of
Yeah,
cricket.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
also counted in
So,
international cricket.
and I think South Africa were very upset by that because England pulled
Yes.
out mid
Yes.
because England were already over there and they pulled out mid series. So I now know what you're talking about with that. Yeah. So South Africa were
Yes.
very upset.
Yes.
Um,
South Africa were very upset with
and
England.
and England, yeah, basically pulled out. They went to Sri Lanka. They played a couple of test matches over there. And yeah, so the and their players all pulled out. So the difference there was I don't think England was the problem of the COVID situation. I think there was an outbreak um, in the South African camp that caused
So here is the problem.
yeah
The problem is also here the same. There has been an outbreak in this Indian team, and
yeah
obviously, if I can understand, everybody
yeah
is has taken their doses. They are vaccinated, but the kids who they are living with, they
yeah.
are not vaccinated. They are not vaccinated, and they won't. They are. You can understand that they don't want to take the risks with the kids, the young ones, their families.
Well, we actually spoken about this. Does I don't want to get into this, but does the security bubble work? And
Yes,
I said
yes.
to you, it doesn't. It's clearly not working. I did say to you before the Indian series in England series, I said there will be a breach. There'll be a breach. I bet you there will be a breach of any kind. And it just shows you that it does not work. It's not working. But having said that, I don't want to go into it, but we can't stop playing cricket because it costs millions of dollars to run. It's just unfortunate that the IPL is a money drain for the ICC. The IPL, it creates
Is
more money.
I understand, Lucas. IPL creates more money than any international cricket series would have been creating
But
this. But I think this series hasn't been cancelled just because of the IPL. It's the biosecure bubble. If the biosecure
yeah,
bubble breach wouldn't have been happened, if the second time cases would have been, if the second time the physio wouldn't have get infected, then this
yeah,
fifth test match would have been gone ahead.
I I understand that, but there's because of the IPL, there's no margin to move. We can't move this test match 12 days. That's the problem, and I think that's wrong. I think I understand that the IPL is very important, but as an Australian, you don't put international first in any domestic league. And I've said, and this is why I've said, I don't care if you're Steve Smith, I don't care if you're Don Bradman, Shane Warne, whoever. You put your domestic league, any league, whether it's Australian League, IPL, Caribbean Premier League, ahead of Test match cricket or representing your country. That's what you're there to play for, representing your country. Then you should be banned from ever representing your country ever again.
You were
And
very right. I just want to remind you one more thing that you were aware about this that your Australian once the tour was announced for the West Indies and Bangladesh tour once the team
yeah,
was announced, everybody was part of that team. Steve Smith, Pat
yeah,
Cummins, Mitchell Stark, and everybody was part of this team, and they pulled
yeah,
out just because they don't want to be part of that T20 team, and they don't want to be part in this bubble again, just because they come with this IPL team, and obviously the IPL didn't completed yet, and they also didn't went ahead with this T20 international team.
yeah. I can't speak for India. I know COVID in India is extremely bad. Especially last 3-4 months where people were dying on the streets for oxygen.
Yeah.
But in Australia, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks unless you get a government exemption. And I've mentioned this time and time again
I think you are
that
forgetting it, Lucas. Lucas, you are forgetting it. Forgetting it. If I'm not wrong, they reached their home, and that's the time the tour got announced, and after that
yeah,
the team got announced, and all the players who were part of the IPL team, the Steve Smith, the Pat Cummins, all Glenn Maxwell, all the names were
Hazelwood as
there.
well.
Yes, Hazelwood also there, and all the teams, all the names got announced, and suddenly all the Marcus Stoinis were also there, and they were also available for this tour. If I'm not wrong, West Indies and Bangladesh tour, and suddenly all the players take their name off, and you remember this, Aaron Finch was not very happy with that because the IPL finished 1 month earlier. I think 1 month. I think after 1 or 1.5 month, it was get over, and just because of biosecure bubble breach. And after that, this
To
tour was announced.
to be fair to the Australian players, they were not aware that they were going to be picked for national duties during the West Indies series. So that's why they were taking. That's why they were given time off.
Agreed. Agreed.
Because Steve Smith did come out and say, you know, Sheffield he wants to play Sheffield Shield cricket uh, instead of going to the IPL, and then he gets called to the T20 team. And incidentally, the IPL is in the same country as the T20 World Cup. So if I've said this before, if the T20 World Cup, sorry, if we weren't in COVID times, and the IPL was continuing in India, and the World Cup was in the UAE, Steve Smith would not be in the World Cup. They're only there by incidental because the IPL is there and they're scheduled to play. If they would have played the IPL and then they said, you know what, I'm not going to play the T20 World Cup. I'm going to go back and play Sheffield Shield cricket to prepare for the Afghanistan Test match that's now not playing. That's now over. That's not happening anymore. We won't get into that. So I can prepare for. I would have no problem with that because they're going to play domestic cricket in Australia leading up to that Afghanistan Test. But because the team was announced before that tour, I cannot say that Steve Smith shouldn't play ever again because it was out of his hands. Now, during that IPL tour, if Steve Smith played IPL, so if they had mentioned that tour that the tour's going on right now, or you can play IPL, if he chose IPL, I would not be happy. Trust me, I would say he should never play cricket for Australia again. Now, if they want to play T20 in their own time, that's their problem. They're more than welcome to do it. Just do not do it on an international calendar event. And I think my point is to this is that the Indian players, they don't go home to India. They go to UAE. So they don't get any time in. They don't get any time in India. They're off the plane straight into UAE quarantine. I don't know if they have to quarantine or not. England players can't do that. They get to go home to their
6 day
beds.
quarantine. There is a six
Yeah.
day quarantine.
Okay.
And
Okay.
one more thing about this, Lucas.
Yeah.
Just imagine, they, this quarantine life rules
Yeah.
and the bubble
Yeah.
times are very different for the players.
Yeah.
You need a strong mental
Yeah.
to cope with this. Tell me one thing, Lucas.
Yeah.
I was just assuming the things. Just imagine if obviously the COVID, as the virus takes time sometimes to get
Mm.
infected on your bodies, and if any place could have been positive, obviously the test match would have been called on that
Mm.
time, obviously. And tell me one thing, Lucas, the same player would have been quarantined again or
Yeah.
England. He wouldn't have been living to anywhere else. He would have been in England for 14 days.
Yeah.
He would have been testing a lot of times, And
Yeah,
just imagine, and
but
after that he heads towards the IPL. Again, there is a biosecure bubble. Again, he has to face the bubble time there, and there is more tough bubbles in the UAE, which is happening right now.
this is why, leading to what I just said. This is why being in your own country is a benefit. Like I said, India don't go home to India. They go to on a plane. England players can go back to their wives and families and sleep in their own bed for a little while before they go to UAE. You know, that would be the same if Australia was playing in England. They couldn't go all the way home to back to England. They would have to go to the UAE. But England have to stay. They can go in their own beds, go see their families, go see their wives or whatnot, whatever they do. Um, that's why playing in your home country during COVID is such an advantage compared to away teams who just simply cannot do that. And it's very unfortunate. This is not a knock on the IPL, but I understand the cases in India at that time when the IPL started. But with all due respect, we're not stupid. We all know this was going to happen in India, because the population is nothing to do with. I'm not being disrespectful. It's nothing to do with the poverty or the poor wealth nation. It's because there's so many people in India. The chances of cases spiking is just tremendously high compared to Australia, compared to England, compared to anywhere else. And the IPL should have known that. They should have been smart about that. They should have said from day one, you know what, we're going to move this to the UAE at the very beginning. And
That was the point which I wanted to make. Still, I
yeah,
am still stand with this
yeah,
that
yeah,
same thing which we discussed with
yeah,
the James Butler. I'm still
yeah,
saying if the
yeah,
situation would have been very difficult.
yeah,
The problem with the IPL, I know, and I remember this very brilliantly, that once the IPL take off in the March and April, whatever the month it was, the situation in India were quite normal. It wasn't difficult, and the people were there were lot of cases. Problem with that I was the IPL taken off, and after suddenly after 2 weeks, it got it taken the
yeah.
problem was
Spiked.
really
Yeah,
taken out of control. It was out of control, and obviously this was it has started. It is very difficult to stop this IPL because there are a lot of money involved, and obviously you're going to be facing a lot of issues. And people were criticizing a lot of things for the IPL. But just imagine if you are if you are the stakeholder of the IPL, you could have been facing a lot of money. If these things would have been started earlier, IPL wouldn't have been taken place in India. The problem that happened with the IPL, once the IPL started, after 2 weeks, the situation got out of control.
yeah. I, I, I don't want to come off here as disrespectful, and I apologize up front, but it, moving the IPL to UA could have saved Dean Jones' life.
No,
Now, now,
not at all. You're getting it very wrong. You're just
no,
analyzing the
no,
things.
I'm sorry. I know what the hell I'm speaking about. Hang on, just give me 1 second. Now, COVID
Okay.
wasn't the reason. The COVID wasn't the reason why Dean Jones sadly passed away. That's not the reason. That's not what I'm saying.
No,
I'm
no, no.
I'm saying is that if they moved it to the UAE, Dean Jones would have been home. He would have had better facilities. He would have gave him a better chance. Right now, the IPL and their owners, they're very arrogant. They knew that cases in India would have spiked. They had the chance. They had the chance to move this game to. There was talk before the IPL started. They had the chance to move this game to UAE, and they chose not to. Now, we saw players like Patrick Cummins wear orange yellow suits like they're in bloody Ghostbusters. They came home in yellow. It looked embarrassing. It was embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing. And the Indian players were also in the same thing. Sri Lankan players were in the same thing. England players were in the same thing. It was embarrassing. But the Indian government knew. They knew about this, and so did the owners. But they did not want to do anything. They thought in their own minds that it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I think that attitude was very poor, and they had a chance, to move this, and they didn't. And I think that's a very arrogant move. Now we're in this situation. COVID's not going to go away. Let's be very clear. That's not going to go away anytime soon. It'll be here next year as well. Sadly, it'll be here next year, and it'll be here the year after that. No matter who gets vaccinated, I don't want to turn this into politics show, but getting vaccinated does not mean you won't get COVID. People get vaccinated still get COVID. So it's going to be here for a long, long time. And you're going to get situations like this where you're going to get third waves, you're going to get fourth waves. You move let's go a year in advance. Let's go to next season's IPL. If cases in India are still spiking, don't go ahead with it or move it. I understand the money reasons behind this. I understand that fully. Don't get me wrong. I understand why we need the IPL, 100%. But you have the opportunity. Do not make the same mistake you did this year. Move it when you
I
can.
don't think they will be repeating the mistake again because they have seen all this what happened during this year. They will not be repeating this mistake again. I'm very much sure about it.
And I understand owners like Pretty Zentu, who's an owner of RCB, and other owners. They're intelligent people. Let's be honest, they're very intelligent people. But money can make someone stupid. They can get parrot hungry. They can be a little bit arrogant. And you said, they're not going to make the same mistake again. So hopefully IPL will be around next year. Let's be clear about that. That's not going to go anywhere, no matter what happens. So hopefully they learn by this and they just move the damn IPL to UAE again to save all this hassle. Because if they move the IPL to UAE, we wouldn't have had this farce that we had. We would have been able to finish this test series between England and India because we can't finish this test series between England and India. We can't move this game 2 weeks because of the IPL. Now, that's not Virat Kohli's fault. That's not Jadeja's fault. That's not Ravi Shastri's fault. That's none of them fault. It's none of their fault. But I think common sense needs to play a little bit more part in these decisions. Damage is already done. Can't help the past. Got to move on from the past. So in future, we just have to be aware that this isn't going to go anywhere. It's a horrible disease. It's a very sad disease that's affecting a lot of people's lives. But unfortunately, it's not going anywhere, whether we like it or not. And in series, not just last year or this year, next year, bubbles will be breached again. It will happen again. And, what we've learnt from this year, how we're going to improve ourselves to deal with that the next year.
Okay. I take in your point, obviously, but I think if the second is obviously you have your point of view, which I totally respect that. But I think if the second times this bubble, the any players got tested positive, I think the toad got over any day. It's a sad scenario that after this series there is a IPL and people have this right to blame IPL, but I think people can wait for the first breach and they waited. We have waited on the Sri Lankan series also, and we had obviously we could have cancelled that tour also, but we understand the situation with the Sri Lankan board. They could have faced a lot of problem. We played that series obviously, and you are aware about that. We played that series with the only 3 or 4 batsmen, and all the three or four batsmen they were debuting on that series. We lost this series with the Sri Lankan team, Lucas. You obviously knew this that we lost the T20 series with Sri Lanka just because that Sri Lankan board doesn't lose the money, because that was all about the money. Same here, we could have played this fifth test match without doing anything, but the problem arises here that there is a second time that once again the physio got positive. I think everybody loves their family. Everybody takes their family, and they are very serious with the family. It's not only right to play IPL.
Absolutely. And to mention that, brought up a good point. When England did not want to pulled out of South Africa, Sri Lanka came in and played. Sri Lanka came in and played South Africa 2 weeks later for a ODI series and a Test series. But this is once again that it's also a very benefit to be a rich nation, because you can afford to pull out of these Test series. Australia have now done it 3 times. Well, we'll say 2. We won't count the Afghanistan. It's totally different. But they've now pulled out of the Bangladesh tour that would give them money. They've pulled out of now South Africa that would give them money. Sri Lanka cannot do that because they're not as financially secured as Australia. So their players had to risk getting COVID. Now, thank God, none of their players got COVID.
Yes, and
Um, but
we
yeah,
had the chance also to
yeah,
pull out that series between Sri
yeah,
Lanka, but we still played just because they
yeah,
could have lose lot of amount with the Sri
yeah,
Lanka. And Sri Lanka
yeah,
appreciated us that
yeah,
we played only, as I told you, we played only with
yeah,
the three batsmen.
yeah. We did, yeah,
Just imagine, Bhuvneshwar
yeah,
Kumar
and
was batting. Bhuvneshwar Kumar was batting at number six. I hope you
yeah,
remember that.
yeah.
That's the scenario we got. Just imagine Bhuvneshwar Kumar is batting at number six in the
So,
T20. Just imagine
so
T20. So we played that series just because Sri Lanka doesn't lose lot of money. And
yeah,
in that series, I'm telling you, because if by any chance if any players got positive again, we could have left that tour,
yeah, of
but we
course.
still gone ahead with that tour
Yeah,
because there was no there was no any problem after that. Honestly, we lose that series, and
now,
we obviously Sri Lankan people were making a lot of
yeah,
fun. Obviously, we didn't understand that we made a favor of him. Obviously, with the fourth or fifth team, we still played that series. Same here. It's I told you, it's a sad scenario that after this series, it is the IPL, and people have their rights to blame the IPL. But I think during this bubble times and bio bubble breaches time, people boards needs to understand that there will be a breaches, there will be a situation where the players got tested positive. So they needs to understand they could they could take a lot of time between one series and the second series. So if you got this problem of a biosecure bubble breach, the test match could still go ahead and take the time. That's the thing which they can do. Go ahead, Lucas.
but if the IPL wasn't on, they would have abandoned the game for 2 weeks and it would have restarted. That's my point. They
No,
can't do that
Lucas.
because of the
I
IPL.
think you know this with Indian team. They play a lot of international games. Just imagine. I'm just giving you the reference. If India went ahead with another, they were playing with the other international team. They wouldn't have cancelled that too. Let me remind you. They could. They wouldn't have. I think we were about to play. I think Sri Lanka or even West Indies in the September October. But just because that IPL was about to start. IPL got rescheduled in the September. We cancelled two or three tours. We cancelled two or three tours. You remember
And
that?
I think India would have sent a B team to those nations like they did to Sri Lanka. But
Just
but going back, again, apologies up front to the Dean Jones family. They couldn't celebrate his death, or not celebrate it, but mourn. He would have got a state funeral, which is a state funeral is a very big thing here. A lot of people, crowds. They couldn't do that because of COVID. And Dean Jones is a legend of Australian cricket, a legend in my heart. I know I didn't see him play, but he was such an iconic figure. And don't if the family are watching this, don't think of it as what I said. And if any IPL are watching this and think I've put down their tournament, don't think of that. I just felt that that could have been different. That could have had a different outcome if Dean Jones was in Australia, in my opinion.
I totally understand your feelings, but with this human's life, if there
Yeah,
is something written in your destiny,
yeah,
you tend to be happening this. You
uh,
can't blame anything about that, but
yeah.
there is
Of course,
everything
no.
written in your
That
destiny.
no health
Yes.
problems happen in life. We have a good friend of
Yes.
ours, called Daz Cricket, who's been on our show. And very sadly, has been diagnosed with cancer, and we wish him all the absolute best. He was a very good friend of ours on the show.
Yes.
But unfortunately, it's not discriminative. Diseases are not
Yes.
discriminative. They do not pick and choose. It does not matter what race you come from. It will get anybody,
Yes.
absolutely anybody. Uh, and
And yes,
and
I
and I
think.
think
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think the facilities in it, this has nothing to do with the Indian healthcare system. But I think better facilities help chances of survival. And Australia, when it comes to facilities of healthcare, they are probably up there as the top 5 nation with healthcare and medical facilities, and that's a big difference, in saving a life.
Yes. Let's. I think this is totally different topic. We need to move that what should be done in the future. Okay. I think there should be a time. We should any board should once they are announcing their calendar time, their tour time. Once they announce their the calendar, the schedule that when they will be playing the next series, and they should get in this mind that they should take a lot of time between the series, because you in this COVID time there will be a lot of situation that there will be bio bubble breaches, the player got tested positive and all this. So this should be mindful of that your series, your calendar, that when the next series is being started and when
Yeah.
the next series being played.
You know, this is what I was talking about with deaths. It, like heart cancers, heart attacks. COVID is not discriminative. You can't help it. It's not your fault. It just happens. And we've seen security bubbles do not work. Now, you just can't pull out of you can't pull out of cricket. You just can't, because like I said, this isn't going away. Yeah, there are things around it.
Lucas, we all love cricket and we all been
Yeah,
biggest fan of the
yeah,
cricket, obviously you know. But
yeah,
sometimes, Lucas, we could understand this. Sometimes lives are better than
yeah.
lives are much important than this cricket.
I understand that, but I don't think the ICC sees it that way, because if they did, there wouldn't be any cricket this year or last year. But having said that, ICC is a business, and when you're losing money, you know, it's up to that business per se to do whatever it takes to get money back into their system. And like I said, the ICC are run by smart people. Their board have got very smart people on there. Mark Taylor was on the board. Kumar Sangakkara was on the board as well. These are very smart, brilliant minds. Let's put that out there. These are not stupid
I
people.
think Anil
Um,
Kumble was also there.
yeah, another very smart brain,
Yeah.
very good IQ cricketer. But unfortunately, it's up to them to decide what should we do about cricket in these situations. And at the end of the day, players have families to feed. They have that. We saw with Joss Butler. He just had a baby girl. He needs to now support that baby girl, or a baby boy, one of the two. So he needs to support that baby. Um, you know, all these players have wives, they have kids. Tim Payne has 2 children, a wife. He needs to put food on the table. And these smart cricketing minds, come together and they think, how do we pay? How do we keep these cricketers in the job? Because you don't need cricketers to go from professional cricketers to working in stores, in clothes stores or food supermarkets. And I don't blame them for that. I don't blame them for that. But you do have to be a little bit smarter on how you go about it. Um, Obviously, you're not going to cancel cricket next year. That otherwise, they would have done it already. But what they should do, if these bubbles keep breaking, you might have to go. This is pretty extreme, but you might have to put it's probably going to cost money, but you're going to have to put each player in each room and not have no contact with them, no training. They have to do it by video link only. If that this is the only way I can think of that will sure it's 100% foolproof. Yes, it's very
And
out there.
I think that most of the time series would be played in UAE because the UAE
Yeah,
bubbles are very strict.
yeah,
They are very strict.
yeah,
You don't
yeah.
see the breaches
So,
there.
and I think you have to limit your staff. I think in today's age, sports science, sorry, is is very alarming. of how you recover, how you start, how many overs you should bowl. I don't think you need about five different people on that of that variety telling you what to do. Like you look at Virat Kohli, he's been playing cricket for over 20 years. So I don't think you need that kind of stuff to follow you everywhere. I don't think you need a batting coach. I don't think you need a consultant. I just think in future series you send your coach, uh, and probably one fitness staff, because if the players get cramp, you need a doctor there, of course. So a coach and a doctor, and then your 11, and then probably couple of reserves. I think you don't need a bowling coach, you don't need a batting coach. I think that's extreme. I understand that's extreme, but it gives a less chance of getting COVID or exposing someone to COVID, because these 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 coaching staffs that have got COVID, you know, they don't really need to be there. Of course, Robert Strassi needs to be there. He's the
But
coach, but the PR
COVID,
PR
COVID,
guy for
COVID can, yes, but COVID, COVID can happen to anyone. It's not about they
absolute
have
no ab,
analyzed this coaches and all that.
absolutely, but the less people out there, the less chance of an outbreak.
Yeah.
So in future to
It's about Lucas. It's about the once the biosecure bubble is secure. If there are no breaches,
yeah
no matter how many people are there, you won't be seeing that any player got affected. And I was just I was seeing the matches, and you were also seeing all these matches. The security, the Java and whatever he is, I don't care. He's been the fan of India. I don't care. But the security management in England was
joke
ridiculous, man.
joke.
It was a joke. Just imagine we are playing cricket in a very difficult situation. There is a bubble, and somebody came out from the ground. I don't care. People, the cricket can go ahead. Yes, three times exactly. The three times that happened, and I don't understand. You can have this cricket matches without the spectator also. We don't need fans and all this, just
No.
because there are a lot difficult situation we are facing, and there is a bio bubble time. People can watch this cricket, and people can take their entertainment with their being in the home.
We said this with another good guest of ours, Michael, um,
Yeah.
from New Zealand. TV
Yes.
rights and money is extraordinary alone without fans. So you'll still have the TV money, you'll still have television rights. So again, you probably don't need fans. Now this is the problem with Australia and England. Australia want 25,000 at the SCG and 50,000 at the MCG. Sydney just recorded 2,000 cases last night, and yet they mysteriously want a slap, just a click of their fingers from those 2,000 COVID cases to turn to zero overnight. It's never going to happen. And you can have all these restrictions. It's still going to spread no matter what. Because let's be honest, if restrictions work, why are we still in COVID? If restrictions, shutting down the borders, wearing masks, if that worked, we wouldn't be here with a second wave or third wave. India wouldn't be there with a third wave. America wouldn't be there with a third wave. So you don't need the less people you need, the better. The less chances of spiking. So I don't think you need fans. Yes, it's always good to
Yes.
have fans at games.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
always good to
Yes.
have fans at games. But you do not
Yes.
need fans at games. You don't need all these bowling coaching
Yes.
staffs. Keep
Yes.
your 11 players in the future. 11 players, coach,
No,
doctor.
I think there is a problem with this 11 place, because once the any player got injured, he has to fly from the other country, and he has to again quarantine. So that's the
Yeah,
problem you could
yeah.
face. So forget about this. We have this long conversation on this, because you know this what it
Another,
has been a long
another,
50,
yeah.
55 minutes.
An, another counter argument of that is that would benefit the home team more than the away
Yes,
team.
yes, yes,
Um.
yes. And one more thing,
So
I think
yeah,
they could try three things, as we have discussed in this show. The boards should need to be a smarter once they are scheduling the series. There could be a time where there will be bicycle bubble breaches. So you need to have a lot of time between the series. Okay, They can do one thing. The other things they can do, that the boards, obviously the England boards have allowed the fans. They could have avoided that, because we are playing in the bubbles time, the breach, the biosecurity bubble time, tough situation. I don't think the fans are required in this cricket, in this tough situation. I don't know when the COVID would be going anywhere else, but I don't think in this tough situation fans are required in the ground. So and the third point, you need to be little smarter with this in the bubbles. That's it. I think we are done for today. We have taken a lot of time. We have discussed a lot of things. I think we are done for today. Lucas, just say to everyone, do like and subscribe, and share to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Just on the fourth test, the fifth test that would have been, um, no
Yes.
Javo, and we would have seen him. He would have done it again. He would have done it
Yes, he
again.
would have done again. Yes, exactly. He would have
So,
done again. Exactly.
thank God that didn't happen. It would have made things worse. But anyway,
Yes.
like and subscribe. Please share to your friends. Thank you.
And I think we are left with the no cricket, unfortunately.
For a
That's
while.
yes, for a while. That's a sad
So
scenario.
stay with the YouTube cast. I know it's a bit hard to post videos when there's no cricket,
Yeah.
but please keep subscribing, and we'll try to get as much cricket content as possible. But sometimes in these situations, you do have to be
Yes.
patient. For
Yes.
videos, we can't post
I
every
think
day,
I think the New
unfortunately.
Zealand. Yeah, I think the New Zealand and Bangladesh series is going on. I think we need to call Michael Wagner again. We need to call Michael
Yes.
Wagner again.
So
He's the
so
best guy. We will have this
yeah. So
discussion about the New Zealand and Bangladesh series. I think once we got free. Till then, guys, do like the video.
absolutely.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Till then, guys, good night. Take care. Love you all, and do take care of your families in this tough time.